on Amazon, and
Right.
we use the username Ubuntu, right?
Right.
For Red Hat, I launched Red Hat, and
Uh-huh.
for Red Hat, I'm trying to use the username root, but it's not letting me get into the. Uh, yeah, I have created the EC2 user, and
Okay.
EC2 user is working fine. That is working
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
So
Uh,
when we create EC2 user, uh, because that EC2 user is at Amazon level. When when we access the server, is that EC2 user is just like a root user on your instance? Or?
See, this EC2 user is not at the Amazon level, it's at the machine level. There will be a user created in the machine. That EC2 user will be present in the machine, in the sense the Linux instance, and you can see the home directory of the user as well. It will be /home EC2 user.
Okay, okay.
So
So
only thing is we don't use password to log in, but we use the PEM file to log into the machine.
okay. So when you start using EC2 user,
Mhm.
then you switch back to the root user also, because we just gonna do sudo and uh, I'm trying to find out like how we can get the root access instead of just
Sudo
EC2.
su hyphen. This will move to root
Mhm.
access, from EC2 user to root access, or from Ubuntu user to root access.
Oh, it won't ask the password just like Vagrant, right?
No, it will not ask password. Simply we can move to the EC2 user.
Okay, okay, that's good. One more thing, Santosh, are we gonna at some point we gonna do the integration with the Ansible and AWS integration or like
Uh,
DevOps?
one class will see the integration of complete cloud with Jenkins. Okay.
Jenkins. Okay.
Jenkins, Maven, AWS, and all that stuff. We're going to Ansible. We'll see one class. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But
And
see,
what's the
when you say AWS instances, they are nothing different compared to Vagrant instances, Vagrant VMs. Everything is same. Only thing
yeah.
is the way we access is different, but when you use Vagrant, once you log in and once you set up username, password, once you set up the root credentials and all, they all are same. They behave in the same way. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I think we haven't even launched the Jenkins to launch the VM even, right?
Sorry, Jenkins.
We haven't used that the whole path, the Jenkins cycle, to launch the VMs on the Vagrant even, right?
Ah, okay, okay. You mean, see, Vagrant VMs is just basically for test or development
Okay.
environment, right? So we don't
Yeah.
launch from Jenkins, but what we do is we use the existing VMs. But
Okay.
yeah, you're right. So there are two things, right? One is on-premise and other is AWS or cloud, right? So some organizations, they use something like Jenkins, then Git, then Maven, then Ansible, and then the test nodes can be directly created at the on the fly, or there are existing test machines in the lab and they can be used. So simply we copy the modules, the test, the application to existing machines, or we can also have the same behavior, something like Ansible, Git, Maven, Jenkins, Git, Maven, Ansible, and this will create the new infrastructure every time when there is a build, when there is a development build, when there is development branch is built in Git, every time it creates a new infrastructure, and
Okay.
and then it will deploy the application to the new infrastructure. And I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think okay. Okay. Now you got your point.
This is
Yeah.
called immutable infrastructure.
Immutable. Okay. Okay. No, one more
Okay.
thing, Santosh. This is clear. This is okay to. For example, if I just want to deploy just regular VM, like OS VM. I don't want like coding anything, no DevOps. Just want to use any of the DevOps tool to auto deploy the VMs.
Hmm.
Then what would be the what would be the circle like? I just use
So
Ansible.
this will be a VMware environment.
Yes.
Yes, there is a, if you want to, I mean, it's little in depth, but if you want to use to have kind of new VMs deployed automatically, so there is
Yeah.
something called a Ansible module, uh, VMware plus vSphere together we can use, and that module is called what is that name? I forgot.
Okay, I'll Google it. Don't worry. And how about
Yeah,
the
so
same?
that module, if you use it with Ansible, it's like
Yeah.
there is an input parameter file. You just need to modify the name, the VM name, the hard disk size, the CPU, the RAM, and all. It will automatically create a VM. So basically, what happens is, see this vCenter or vSphere, they talk to the ESX machine in the hypervisor level, right? So when we, from any machine, when we give the username and password of the hypervisor, and when we that's a Python module, we need to download and use it, and if you change that, it will automatically create a VM, and so it will, I mean, there are a lot of other things we need to do, a lot of
Okay.
customization we need to do. We need to download the ISO, we need to customize it, customize in the sense we need to create something called automatic installation, silent installation we call it,
Okay.
silent installation we need to do, and we need to zip this ISO with the input file. Why input file is needed? Because we don't want to do the graphical user installation. We want everything to be automatic, right? So
Okay. Yeah.
using this module, if we have this ISO, this is one-time job. Once we do this, and this module will automatically create a VM and get the VM up and running with the specified operating system. But
Okay.
there are a lot of customizations and all we need to do, but there is a way to do that.
Okay. How about if we have to do the same for Amazon instead of VMware? Let's say we want to do the Amazon, just VM deployments in Amazon, automate that process.
Yeah, for that we have something like CloudFormation and Terraforms. These are the
Okay.
tools which are basically to create the immutable infrastructure. They basically, on the fly, they create the environment.
Okay. So this cloud formation Terraform is a tool that we have to deploy.
Yeah, that's a tool you need to install and use it. That will create the environment.
For in Amazon, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody tried creating the instances? Okay. Are you able to log in?
Yes, I'm able to log in with EC2.
Log
EC2 is
in
working.
using the PEM file,
Yes.
and then log into root, switch to root, and execute some commands, install some packages.
Yes. Yes. It's pretty
Like
straightforward. Yeah.
how you used Vagrant VM, were you able to set up the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, and able to destroy, and after you're done.
Or able to destroy. Are we going to destroy using the Vagrant, like Vagrant destroy,
No,
or
no,
just?
no. There is option in the AWS Management Console. Right click
Oh,
on there is a state to
yes.
destroy, right?
Yeah, I think you have to stop first and then destroy.
Yeah, I think we can directly destroy, but that's okay. Yeah, we can stop and destroy as well. So did you notice that if you reboot the machine, the IP is getting changed, IP of the
Yes.
machine?
Yes, it is changed. That's right.
IP of the machine will be changed when we reboot a EC2 instance, because it's based on DHCP protocol.
DHCP.
It's basically the IP gets assigned automatically whenever there is a reboot or whenever there is network restart, right? So let us say I want the IP to be static all the time, right? So to have static IP, we need to use something called Elastic IP. Okay, so there is something called Elastic IPs.
Okay, I think it's gonna charge you if you is it gonna not gonna charge you if you use Elastic IPs, or is it okay?
It's using 5 Elastic IPs is free.
Okay.
P5. But will be charged if we request a Elastic IP and we are not associating with any of the VM, then we will be charged. So it's like we have a EC2 instance, okay, and then we need to request Elastic IP, and we need to associate both of them.
Oh, okay. So you use
right?
them.
So it's like attaching IP to EC2 instance. Then we'll be able to log in using that public IP, and that will not change with reboots or network restarts. So it's persistent across the reboots.
And can we do the Elastic IP to existing instance also?
Which instance?
Existing, which is already running.
Yes, yeah, anything we can do to existing instance as well.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay, that anyway we'll see. We have created a EC2 instance. We define the RAM, we define the hard disk size, and we define the security groups. And we have downloaded the PEM file, and then we are able to log into the EC2 instance once it is ready, right? And we can also attach the Elastic IP. And the next thing is there is something called load balancer and auto scaling. That we'll see little later. But today we'll see another service, which is IAM. So this is identity and access management, basically for security. So let us say, kind of, I'm an architect. So for a new organization, let us say for startup, we need to create the infrastructure to deploy the application or to deploy the mobile apps or whatever, right? Then I started creating the environment. So what is the access I get for the first time? So for the organization, I created AWS account. Okay, then I started using it. So I created several EC2 instances. I created Elastic IPs, and then I created some storages, S3 buckets, and all that stuff I did. Now, since it's like architect has created all these things, it's not like he is going to do the work, right? So he want to delegate the work to people in his organization, let us say in his team. So something like he has in his team, there are people like Linux admin, okay, and storage admin, or database administrator, etc., etc. There are different people working in his organization. Now with the account, primary account, what he gets is unrestricted root access. This is what we get when we create for the first time. When we sign up with the AWS account, we are like root. We can do anything. We can destroy the EC2 instances. We can create the EC2 instances. We can create the storage. We can attach. We can create a database. We can delete a database. Everything we can do. So we are like root. So generally, architect has all the permissions. Let us assume. But he cannot do anything on his own, but he has to give permissions to his team member to do that. So let us say, as the architect, I have given permissions to my Linux admin to work on something, to configure something on my EC2 instances. So my idea is, let us say, I want to configure something on the Linux machines. So I have given my permissions to this guy, who is a Linux admin. He is a Linux admin, but he doesn't know anything about storages. He doesn't know anything about the database. So let us say, by mistake, he changed some configuration on the database, or by mistake, he changed something on storages that has corrupted the database. Because of that, entire, let us say, service is down, right? So it is like what I have given is unrestricted root access. I have shared my credentials with this guy, and he is good at EC2. He knows everything about Linux, but he doesn't know anything about the database or storage. So by mistake, if we change something in the database or storage, the service will be down, application will be down. So in the similar way, let us say there is a storage admin. He is really good at storages, managing the storages, and by mistake he has done something to EC2 instance, and that has made the service or application down, right? Because what I'm sharing is the root access. Anybody can do anything with this root access, right? So is there any way, something like I want to restrict people from performing only some tasks, not everything, right? So that is when this IAM is introduced, which basically restrict people to give to perform certain tasks only. Let us say if he is a Linux admin, I'll give access to EC2 only. He'll be able to work on EC2 service only. Other than that, he'll not be able to access anything, right? If the other guy is a DBA, database administrator, he'll be working on database only. He cannot touch EC2 instances, right? So like that, I want to create different users, right? So database administrator will work on databases only. He cannot work on EC2 instances. So like that, we can create the users. So let us say if I have IAM, I can create a user like EC2 admin. I can create a user like DB admin. I can create a user like S3 admin, right? And I can give a specific permission to these people. Let us say EC2 admin. There are something called policies. Using this policy, I'll set something like EC2 full access. So this guy will be able to access only EC2 related services. And DB admin, I'll create a policy, something like RDS full policy or something, right? Using which he'll be able to access only the database, right? In again S3 full access I'll give him. He'll be able to access only S3 buckets, right? So this way I can restrict people from accessing everything, and I can give permissions based on their role, right? So we are delegating the work based on the role. So we are assigning the permissions based on the role they perform. This is called identity and access management. Okay, let us try to create some users and understand how this works. So for everything we need to go to services, and there are a lot of services here, and here there will be something called IAM. Okay, so here there are options, there are users, there are groups created. So let us try to create one user. I'll delete the existing users. Add user. So whatever here I have is root access, unrestricted root access. Now I'm trying to create a user ID. Okay, so I'll say I'll create Linux admin, right? And how do you want to give access? So there are two ways. One is the programmatic access, the other is the AWS management console access. So AWS management console access is this one. So he'll have his own console. He can log into the console and work on it. Programmatic access is AWS can be accessed using CLI as well, right? So it is like on a Linux machine, I can install AWS CLI. So I can directly launch the instances from the CLI. I can stop the instance, start the instance, so many things we can do, right? So here I want to give AWS management console access. And then what is the password? You want to generate password automatically, or you want to provide a custom password? We can provide our own password, right? So let us say auto generated password. So it will generate the password automatically. And there is a policy. What is that? User must create a new password at next sign in. So what is this? So once user logs in with this password, system generated password, Next, he'll ask to change the password immediately, so he'll be enforced to change the password at the next sign in, right? So fine. So I'll give this option as well. So he has to change the password once he signs in for the first time. So next I'll go to permissions, and then so there is already a group created with server group, or let us create a new group. I'll just say group name as Linux admin group.
Santosh, is this IAM is just like AD, like Windows AD? Active Directory? Active Directory?
Not exactly. Active Directory is something like stores information about the users, right? So basically it's like a kind of a database, object-oriented database, where there are lot of reads compared to writes, right? So it's like a telephone directory wherein you write very rarely, but you read most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So this is so that in Active Directory or eDirectory, something like the search will be very fast. So whenever there is a request, it immediately captures. For example, I want something from a user. Yeah, import or export.
Yeah.
But this is more like a security, for security, creating the users, controlling the users from accessing.
Okay, so do you know what is the actual tool they are using as a backend? Because this is a front end, right? Is it a Linux-based open source that they're using to manage all those IDs? Like,
in the sense, how do they restrict people from accessing it? So I mean, this is not actually in the instance level, right? It's mostly in the kind of all the instances level. So it's more of this Amazon level, right?
yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to understand, like Amazon has implemented, for example, for the VMs, they have implemented the hypervisor, right? And they
Yeah,
have
that's mostly KVM actually. People say that's mostly KVM hypervisor.
KVM. It's KVM. How about for this one, for AD, like for IAM,
Okay,
what
you mean
they have on the
directly?
back?
I'm not sure. I'll find out.
Okay.
Exactly, I don't know actually. Yeah, let me find out. Okay. So I want to give full access to EC2. Amazon EC2 full access is the policy name. Okay. Then I associate this policy with this group. So I'll create a new group. Now I have created a Linux admin user, and I'm associating Linux admin group with that user. And then I have given Amazon EC2 full access. Next. So there are two policies associated with this user. What are they? Linux admin group, IAM user change password, right? So this policy is basically to change the password once he logs in for the first time. So this will create a user. So if you click on the user, a user is created, and so here this is my console. As a root, I log into this console, but he will have his own console. This is his console, right? So as a architect, I need to give these details to my Linux admin, saying that, hi Linux admin, a new user is created for you. You can log into this console. I can say this is your console. Okay. Then I can give the console details. Then the user ID is Linux admin, and I give this .csv file, download.csv file to him, so that he can open it. If I open it, credentials, so there will be a password in this Excel sheet. Okay, so this is a password. So username and the password is given. So I also give this entire Excel sheet as attachment to the mail. So now Linux admin gets this mail. Okay, so he understands that here he has to log into the console to access EC2. So let us try to log in. So I'll just sign out from my root user. Then I'll log into Linux admin's console. Okay, now let us say I'm a Linux admin. So I just log into the console. Then if you see, this thing is changed, right? Sign in using root account credential. This is the root account, but what we are signing is as IAM user. So now I'll give username as Linux admin, password as this.
So what is the account ID? Is it account name? Okay, the
Yeah,
ID.
for every user ID, it will create an account. So this is like a Linux admin account.
Okay, so when you create that user, it gives you the account ID also at that time?
Yes, it gives.
Okay.
It will be here also, I think. Okay, it's not there, but it will be there in the console.
Okay.
Okay, so now I have it's enforced to create a new password. So I'll create my own password, root123 whatever. Then confirm password change. So now I logged into the Amazon console as Linux admin user, right? And now I have been given EC2 full access. So now I can go to EC2 and launch instance. We'll just see whether we'll be able to launch the instance or not. Okay. If I click on this, I'll be able to launch because I have been given EC2 full access. Now let us say I will go to some other service. Okay, I'll go to S3. This is related to storage. We have not yet covered, but just I'll go to S3 and say, if I want to create a bucket, what is the error it's saying? Access denied. So as a Linux admin, I can only access EC2. I cannot go to S3 and create a bucket. Or let us say, let me go to database. Can I create a database? Launch a DB2 instance. Failed to load data because Linux admin is not authorized to perform. Right? So this way, EC2 admin user is only allowed to work on EC2 instances. He will not able to work on anything else. So that is what is IAM. Right?
Yeah, so when you created the user, you attach the user to one of the policies, right?
Right.
EC2 policy, something like that?
EC2 full access.
EC2 full access. So we have to remember like which policy do what, or is it we're gonna guess by the name of the policy like EC2
Yeah,
full
we can
access?
just guess based on the name of the policy because if you just search in it, there will be a lot of policies. So based on the requirement, we can select the policy. If you want full access, you can give something like S3 full access. So this will give to service S3. This will give to
Want to
RDS.
give like read only access.
Yeah, even that will be there. Read only. Let us say now again I want to log in as root. So I'll just sign out.
Santosh, can we create our own policies?
Yes, I think we can create. Sign into root account. So here, let me go to IAM and users. This user belongs to a group called Linux admin group. So let us see if I can give permissions to this guy. Okay, attach policy. In this policy, there are a lot of other policies, right? So let us say we'll see anything with EC2 read. Yeah, EC2 read only access. Okay, so this is given. So if you select this and remove that full access, you'll have only read-only access, right? So based on the requirement, we can choose the policy. Okay. In the same way.
So I would say the best practice is to have different groups, and groups has already attached to the policies. And
Right, we just add the users to the groups.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that's a better way of doing it?
Right. Yeah, we also have created a group, right? So if we want to create a new user now, we can just create the user and attach it to that group, so that user will get all the permissions of that group.
Okay. Now one more thing for two-way authentication. I just set it up two-way authentication, like the key also.
Yeah, the device. Yes.
Yeah,
using
IAM,
we can do that as well.
Yeah, for the EC2, I have two-way authentication. Now, if I'm gonna create a user with a password, is that the user still have to do the same thing, or is gonna be the two-way authentication is restricted to EC2?
That is called multi-factor authentication. Yes, even if you have the password, we need to we can create the user has to use the two-way authentication, something like there is a RSA device. Right? So that device will have that we need to attach it to this thing. What is that? First we need to register with the AWS, so that this will have one-time password, right? So for the first time, when we have to register, and once we register and when we log in, it will ask a password, and there will be a continuously changing password on the device. That password we need to enter in AWS, then only it will allow to log in. That password, and then in the next your password, whatever the password which you have set, that we have to enter. Then only it will allow to log in. So that is multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, I just configured it. It's working for me. I'm just trying to say, like, is this true for only EC2 user, or it's going to be true for all the users? Because any user we create, they also have to do the same process. They have to do the RSA device, because we
not only RSA device. There is also something called, now device is not required. There is an app in mobile.
Authenticator. Yeah, I have installed the app.
Using that as well we can do, and it is not only for this user. For any user we can set up the multi-factor authentication.
Okay, so no, I'm trying to understand is, like, we configured multi-factor authentication for EC2 user. Okay. Now, when we create a new user, is that new user by default has multi-factor authentication or no?
No, I think we need to specifically enable it. Anyway, let me see. We'll try to create a new user who has, let us say he is a S3 admin. We'll create a new user, S3 admin, and the policy which I want to attach is S3 full access. Okay, so I want to give him access to S3 and restrict access to everything else. Okay, so see, activate multi-factor authentication on root account, manage MFA. I think it is for everyone. Once we have set up this, then it will ask for everyone this multi-factor authentication.
Okay, let me try that. I haven't tried that. Even I think looks like any user you create, that user will still have to go still have to do the multi-factor authentication.
Right.
Looks like to me as
Okay, so I'm trying to create another user.
If that user gonna have to register his own device again, or it's gonna be just
yeah. Every time user has to register with the device, because Amazon has to understand the device, right? So it has to associate it.
I think it's gonna be multi-factor, because your main account is using multi-factor. So any user you adding to that. It's just like your organization has a multi-factor, so any users accessing the organization from home you need to have multi-factor, right? So I think.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I am trying to create a new user S3 admin and auto-generated password with management console access and with a policy. Change the password. Okay. Next, I'll give the permissions, and then I'll create a new group. S3 admin group. Then I'll attach a policy. S3 full access.
Can we check what is defined in policy? Like what are the details? Like maybe
Yeah,
like
we'll see. There is an option to create a new policy as well.
okay.
Let us see that once we create this. So there is a new group created and we have attached a policy, and then let's say review. Create user. So again, there is another files created, and there is another account created with this console, and then let me try to log into this console using this password. Okay, so I'll just sign out from here. S3 admin and the password. Sign in. So old password, I need to give a new password. Another new password. Confirm password change. Okay, so now S3 admin user is created, so we logged in as S3 admin. Now if I try to log in to EC2, try to create EC2 instances, we'll get this error. We are not authorized to launch the instances or see the instances because we only have access to the S3 buckets. We can create S3 buckets now, but we cannot do anything else. Okay, so here we can create the S3 bucket because we have been given full access to S3, right? So let me try to see by logging in as root user. IAM policies, and let me see what is there in the policy first. Full access, actions, provides full access to Amazon EC2 instances via AWS Management Console. Okay, that's all. I think we cannot see what is there inside. Okay, it's there. So auto scaling, CloudWatch, EC2, ELB, ELBv2. So these are the different services which gives so there are some of the features which is something like auto scaling, load balancer, and a lot of other CloudWatch and all this to see the metrics. CloudFormation is to create the immutable infrastructure, and these are the different services from EC2. So all these things in this we have been given access to these things. Let me see by creating a new policy.
Yes, and though for the new user, it's not multi-factor. It's by default, it's going to be just username and password actually. So when you create a new user, it won't. It's not multi-factor by default. Even in your default EC2 is multi-factor. The new user will use just regular username and password.
So we are inside the policies and trying to create a policy. So let me see, copy. So we can copy from existing policy or create our own policy. Let me see if I can create. Okay, so I think we need to use the JSON here. Basically, the JSON format, like which service has to have permission, something like we have seen here, right? In IAM, in policies, let's say EC2 full access. If we go inside, so there is a resource and the you want to allow or you want to deny kind of thing. Then the resource permission, right? So we can create our own policy with this kind of JSON syntax. I have never tried by creating that. I think we can create using this syntax. So we need to follow this, the exact syntax. What are the resources we want to allow and what are the resources we want to deny, and with this JSON syntax.
Oh, okay. So it's a JSON file. JSON is a syntax.
Yeah, JSON is a syntax. So okay. JavaScript object notation, basically. So it's like so AWS reads this information and it creates a policy.
Okay, looks like that AD engine is Linux-based engine, maybe probably.
You mean the the one which generates these policies and all?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, might be. So here we are giving access to EC2, Elastic Load Balancing, CloudWatch, and auto scaling. So these are the services which we get full access using this policy. So if we want something more, we can create our own policy by copying this and adding it to the new policy.
Okay. Yeah, just to let you know, I just create a user and new user, and that user doesn't require multi-factor. So new user doesn't require multi-factor. So we don't need like a.
You activated multi-factor authentication for root?
Yeah, root is multi-factor. So whenever I use an EC2 account.
Okay.
But if I create a new user, it won't ask you the multi-factor. It's just username password. Yeah.
Okay, maybe there might be some setting somewhere that will actually ask you to enable multi-factor authentication for everyone.
Yes,
right?
yes, probably.
Okay, so yeah, I'll try to find out that what is it internally using Amazon for the directory services. Okay, so this is about IAM, probably creating the users, giving the permissions, creating the policies, creating the groups, and then so it's like sometimes in the organization they create a few accounts, something like R&D account. Okay, and this is for, let us say, testing and development.
We still have to cover this Elastic IP, how to assign the Elastic IPs.
Yeah. There will be some other accounts like some production account. Okay, and this will be like production servers they keep in this account, and so this will be restricted access. Okay, so maybe this will be given access to all the testers and developers. They can log in and analyze the logs, and CI can be set up, continuous integration can be set up in this account. So this is purely for the testing purpose. Right? Maybe this kind of account is for restricted access, where actually they have all their application server, database server running on this account. Okay, so how do they create? Again, using IAM. Using IAM, they create different users. and sometimes they give the same user ID to everyone to access. Sometimes they create each user ID for different users, right? Okay, so attaching EC2 instance, right? So let us create first EC2 instance. So launch instance, yesterday we created Ubuntu. So this time we'll see Amazon Linux. Okay, so T2 Micro, default settings, 8 GB hard disk, security groups will allow, SSH by default is allowed. Okay, that is what we needed. So fine, I'll just change this to anywhere, or I'll change it to my IP so that only I'll be able to log in, review and launch and launch. So here there are two options: choose existing key pair or create a new key pair. So now I have already a key created that we created yesterday. So I want to use that key to log in. So I'm using the same key. So this is the key which I created yesterday. Okay, launch instance. Okay, so let me go to the log. So there will be instance which is getting created. Now let me go to Elastic IPs and allocate a new IP address. So just allocate. So there is a new IP allocated. The IP is this thing. Okay. This is the Elastic IP. Close it. Now I need to associate this IP address with the EC2 instance. Associate address, and that instance is this thing. Is the instance running? I think it is running. Okay. Now I just click on associate. So this IP is associated. Now if I go to EC2 instances, EC2 dashboard and running instance, so there will be IP associated. So this is the IP which is associated, 4.106, right? So now how do I log into this machine? Okay, so the key is in my downloads directory. Now I'll go to SSH-I key pair, this name of the key, and here it is EC2 user at the rate and the IP address. Yes, so I'm inside the Amazon instance. So now if I log into a sudo su hyphen, so I logged in as root, right? So we can also set a password for root account. We can also allow logging into root account directly, but that is not recommended. So it is always recommended to use the PEM file so that people will not directly log into root account. We can also set something like enable root, like we have seen how to enable SSH, like etc SSH config permit root login equal to yes. And if we restart the SSH, we'll allow with this IP anybody can log in directly with SSH and the username and the password. But that we don't do because we want to use the PEM file for security reasons, right? Now let us say I have instance ready. Now I want to set up a website in this instance. Like how do we set up? So we just need to copy the website. Let us say, for example, where www, first I need to do yum install -y httpd, right? So where www.html index.html, I'll just say hello world, and let me see if I'm able to access using the public IP which we created. Oh, is the service not running? Service httpd status stopped. Start it.
I think you need to open ports, right? Need to request to open ports.
All right, security groups, I need to change it. So by default, HTTP is not open. We only opened SSH. So now let me go to networking, change security groups. 1 minute, I think it's here. So here security groups is there, and in the security groups, go to actions, or here there is something called inbound and outbound. So by default, outbound we allow entire traffic. So there is no restriction to outbound. That means from this instance, we can log into any instance, any other website or any other wget or curl we can do, because outbound access we are not restricting. But whereas inbound, log into this instance, we are restricting only SSH access. Now I'll edit it and I'll add a rule called HTTP, right? So let us say from anywhere, and I just save it. And also let us say we want to allow HTTPS as well. So by default, HTTP listens on 80, HTTPS listens on 443. And just save it. So now I have this access, so this will be automatically enforced. Let us see if I'm able to access now. So now I'm able to access. Can you try accessing from your system? Because this is a public IP, anybody should be able to access. Are you getting the same output if you try to open this in the browser? I have given access to anywhere so that anybody can access.
Yes, I'm getting same.
Okay, so we can also deploy a website, something like a real website. There is a sample data available in one of the examples that we'll see tomorrow, how to deploy a real-time website and access, okay, with images and all that stuff. We'll stop here. Any questions? So we also have S3, how to create the S3 buckets, right, and how to add images to S3 bucket, and what is the advantages we get if we use S3 compared to other storages, right, and then how to access S3 from outside, whatever the objects stored in S3 outside, that we'll see. Okay, we'll stop here. Yeah, bye-bye.